Good morning. Sister Kathy, I sent you the picture again just to be safe, just to make sure you had it. If it went through there. So, what do you see in the picture this week? If you had time to look at it, what's going on in that photo? Somebody reaching out, to help somebody, somebody lifting the other up. Okay, not to be negative, but hopefully it's not somebody pulling somebody else down with them. Still hanging on. Anything else? Well, for me, it represented basically, you got the notion. A hand has been extended to somebody else, and they've gripped the arm of the other person. Now, I do like to sometimes look at the pictures a little deeper than just a surface look. And if you look at that image, I'll talk about that a little bit later on, something specific that I noticed. And they've gripped the arm of that other person. It could have been somebody who needed rescuing. I don't know. Could have been somebody who they're lifting up who's got knocked down, and that can be a metaphor for a lot of things. We know that. But I think about people when I look at something like that. If somebody fell overboard out on a boat or something, they need a helping hand possibly to pull themselves back to safety, don't they? So that could be somebody pulling someone to safety, taking someone from a situation that could be dangerous or could be bad. Maybe it doesn't look that way on the surface, but sometimes you just need a little helping hand. And I know that Jesus does that for us in our lives, doesn't he? He has rescued me, and no doubt he's rescued us in times we didn't even know that's what he was doing. But in Psalm 82, in verses 3 and 4, if you'd like to look there or listen to me, defend the poor and fatherless, do justice to the afflicted and needy, deliver the poor and needy, rid them out of the hand of the wicked. The word there in those couple verses that stood out to me was deliver. When you reach out to someone who's struggling, let's say if they had fallen overboard or something on a small boat, you just reach out and grab them and help pull them up. You're delivering them from their situation, aren't you? You're assisting at least. You're helping them pull them back to safety. And I can ask you this question. Has Jesus ever reached down his hand, and we're speaking as a metaphor, and delivered you out of a situation that could have been wicked? It says, deliver the poor and needy, rid them out of the hand of the wicked. So if you reflect on your life, has he ever reached down, so to speak, as a metaphor, and you've been in a situation and you feel like he's delivered you? Not every believer is poor in terms of finances or their financial status, but we're all needy for his love, aren't we? We are in need of his grace. We're in need of his direction. And he can rid us from the hand of the wicked. In some cases, it's just we battle the devil, don't we? He can deliver us, reaching out that hand when we need it. But I have a responsibility as well. You know, someone fell overboard and you reach out to help them. Do they have to take your hand? They don't have to. They can be in that water floundering. Now, I don't like water. Sometimes people talk about, floating this and floating that. Honey, you float on. I'll pick you up at the other end. I'm at that age. No, I don't want to get in the water. Nope, sorry. Oh, but you'll have fun. No, I know I'm old enough to know my limits. I would fall over, flounder and kicking, and poor brother Carlos could say, "Stupid, just stand up." Because I would probably panic. The thought of the water, ooh, I don't want it. I want nothing to do with it. I'll take a shower, but I don't want to do, I don't want to be in water. But you can find yourself in situations, it's totally up to the other person as to whether or not they accept the hand that is extended to them. Jesus, in his great wisdom, can rid us from the hand of the wicked. He can help us. We are poor and needy, so to speak, in the sense that we constantly need his help and guidance. But I have a responsibility as well. In the image, the arm that's gripping, is it just one-sided grip? And that is the part that stood out to me. The grip isn't just from the person reaching down or from the person reaching up. They both grab hold. Jesus will stand firm, but whose responsibility is it to make sure that he grips on with as much strength as mine? That is my problem. That is my responsibility. Both individuals in that image seem to be holding on to the other. Jesus will hold true through everything that we can encounter. But how tight is my grip on him? That's the question I could ask myself. His grip is going to be just as tight as it needs to be. But how tight is the grip that I hold? Am I trusting in, as the song states, his unseen hand? I won't see, the physical form of Jesus on this earth, but he can help me through a lot of other things metaphorically, can he? Use him as just kind of a symbol for his help. He can reach out through his word, but will I grip hold? He's got a firm grip. He has exactly what I need. He can reach out through a song, but will I grab hold? He can reach out through a message, through counsel from a seasoned saint, and whatever else you want to come up with. But whose responsibility is it to grab a hold of what he's extending? That is mine, and that is yours. As individuals, we have that responsibility. I am not without help, and because God, I'm very thankful, has been very faithful to me. In Psalm 37 and 39, Psalm 37, 39, but the salvation of the righteous is of the Lord. He is their strength in the time of trouble. He will extend that hand of mercy, that hand of kindness, that hand of love, that hand of deliverance. Whatever it is, he will bring stability. But whose responsibility is it to grab a hold? That's me. Situations are very troubling. It says he comes, he's a strength in the time of trouble. In Isaiah 44 and 2, thus saith the Lord that made thee and formed thee from the womb, which will help thee. Fear not. And it reads on, O Jacob, my servant, and thou, Jeshurun, whom I have chosen. But the fear not can be very hard to grab a hold of. Fear is a very natural emotion. Fear is a motivator. Fear can help us avoid situations. It's a natural emotion that God has given us that can have a positive. But in situations in particular, it's easy to take things. The grip is we just grip onto ourselves. Now, if I'm in the water and somebody offers their hand to me and says, here, grab hold, and I say, no, I've already got a hold of something, and I'm holding my arm, and we laugh because that's silly. But how many times do we do that in situations? We don't reach out to the hand that can grab us and help us. No, I'm not saying y'all don't. I'm just saying sometimes in life situations, we grab a hold of ourselves, metaphorically, our own thinking about it, our own desire for it, our own want for it. That, well, it has to be this way. And often I was talking to my kids. I have a social studies class, and one of the things we talk about is culture. And I was talking to the children about how whatever you bring to a situation, often you bring to it what you knew. That's normal. People who can visit here from other places, whether it be Saturday, this coming Saturday, or another time, will bring with it what they know and their experiences. That's just natural and normal. I told the kids about, I have explained this. I don't work for Ashe County Middle School. I work at Ashe County Middle School. I work for Ashe County Schools. At Christmas, my superintendent could say, we need a position here. Sorry, you're the one who's certified, and then I have a choice. I say yes. Well, I'll say yes, ma'am, either way. But then if I feel like it doesn't fit me, then I have to reckon through that, don't I? But you work at the servitude of the board, specifically underneath the superintendent has the right to do things and change things up. But I told the kids, so I taught at the high school, best thing I ever did. I had a wonderful year. I had a really good time. But I asked them, I said, so what did I take with me when I went there? Everything I knew from my job at the middle school. But I was in a very different place, in a very different building, in a very different setting. It had its own culture, doesn't it? So I had to acclimate to that one, but it didn't necessarily mean things I had learned didn't help me. So I think about when we face life situations, we bring with it our own previous experiences, don't we? But sometimes I have to reevaluate, is my experience helping me if God's trying to show me something better or show me something different? Maybe the way I approached it or the way I've been used to it isn't the way I'm going to have to handle this. I've just learned as a seasoned teacher, you can't approach every child the exact same way. They're all different. And that's fair. Giving kids what they need is what's fair. It doesn't mean that everything is going to be carbon copied the same. Wouldn't life be easy if it could be that way? And that's just how it is. I'm not going to go to a doctor who gives every patient the same prescription. That's a loser. You need to find a new doctor. Everything will not be the same for those patients. We all have different conditions, don't we? And thankfully, Jesus knows our situations. And if I will take a hold of his arm of help that he extends, he'll show me what I need for what I'm facing. Jesus is my strength through all of life's situations, even the good ones. I try not to focus on on things. We all have struggles, but I'm thinking about that He's a strength even when it's good. He makes good things even better. You can be having a blessed experience. Because you have the Lord, it gets even better. But I'm thankful that He is a rescuer. And I am not saying that people are getting themselves into situations where they need to be rescued. That can happen. We're all human. We can make a choice and later realize, oops. But to do this and to continue in that for me would be a lack of wisdom on my part, wouldn't it? I have to learn from what He's rescued me from. I have to be cautious, and He'll give me wisdom. When He extends His hand, if I grip it the same way He'll grip mine, He'll pull me through. If He looks ahead, He can know what the future holds, doesn't He? He knows what the future can contain for us, and He knows what we need in our life. He knows who we need. He knows how we need things to be done. By knowing all of this, now this is the part that just amazes me. Out of great love, He could be rescuing us from something that we would never even fathom could happen if we also equally hold on to His arm. People talk about, well, it was their time to die. And I understand that concept, and we all do have a time, don't we? But I don't have to drive 110 through a 35. Can I hasten my day? I mean, think about it, common sense. I don't have to, an individual doesn't have to choose 10 packs a day. Can you hasten your day? I mean, do we all have choices that can impact our decisions? Yes. But He can look ahead. He knows what's coming, and God knows what's best. And out of that great love He has to us, He wants what's best for us, doesn't He? And I wonder, today when something seems like a minor inconvenience, what could He have been rescuing us from that we didn't even know about? He is a rescuer. So why on earth did I have thoughts toward a lesson on the topic that Jesus rescues? I'm going to tell you. Yesterday, I was driving in my car, and there is this song that I particularly like. It's called Goodness of God, I think. I think that's the name of it. And it was playing. And while the song was playing, my thoughts were here and there. And I thought of my sweet Carolyn. And I thought about her during this song. And I thought about how she is with loved ones, specifically how she mourned for the passing of our sister Kathy, and how that part of life for her is over. And I could not help but just smile. And it's like my heart smiled too. Because as I thought about her, I thought, Carolyn, you know what? Just be happy. And now she can be forever. Now that part of living that was so tough is over. And we all process things differently. And I have noticed this in particular with experiencing grief of different loved ones and the different degrees of relationship you have with them and the different type of relationship, the role they played in your life. And I thought about a specific time when my sister was struggling with her health, and she had several months. I look at some photos, and I can say that's about the last day she felt well. I can tell you, July, around the 4th of a year before she passed. And a very specific time in her struggle came to my mind when I was in the car as I'm driving, listening to that song. She had hurt for so long, and we had no idea, no one did, how serious her condition was. Who would have thought back pain can mean multiple myeloma? Her physical state had an impact, and my sister was private pretty much. Now she got to know you, she could tell what she felt comfortable telling, and she wasn't nosy. So I would never want to dishonor her, even though she's gone. But her physical state had a natural impact on her ability to work. That's just life. And for some reason, as I was driving, and I'm not one to dwell on certain things about family in the past, but an incident came to my mind. And I remembered one that was concerning her situation. And for some reason, even though she's gone and she's fine, it just broke my heart to think about it. It just hurt. It kind of hurt me for her, even though she's gone. And I was thinking about it, and I'm not one to really belabor thoughts like that with loved ones who've passed on. But it also reminded me, God provided all along. He was so faithful. And I have lost some very close family members, and I have found that grief can hit you very differently with one loved one as compared to another one. It's just a different relationship, a different dynamic. Some people are very fortunate. They have a lot of their very close family. And when those times come, you really don't know how it will hit you. You cannot predict it. Even if you've lived it, you can't predict it. So there are a lot of commonalities, of course, in the process of losing someone like that. But in this case, I found something a little different. I found myself thinking about Carolyn in a way that broke my heart to remember some of her times of struggle. Because I don't really do that with loved ones like that. I don't linger on those notions when I think of loved ones who've passed. But it happened to hit me with her, and it just made me so sad in my car, kind of adding to that grieving process. And grief is a process. You can try to avoid it, but I don't know. We're all different. I'm not quite sure how healthy that is. Because if you don't get it out, it will take a toll on your body. Things that are not dealt with take a toll. I can just tell you from personal experience, your body will absorb stress in some way. We have people who work in the medical field. Some of you, your body will handle it some way, and it may not be good. So you got to process it in a healthy way, and it's okay to have emotion and let those things come out. So here I am alone in my car, and I was just having a moment of grief and sadness. But then, Brother Mark, a thought struck me as that song played in the background of my thoughts. I can't remember for certain the exact lyric that was playing when this thought came to my mind. But there is a line in that song that says, that states, "All of my life you have been faithful." And as I was driving my car, having that little private moment of grief, thinking about that very specific time for Sweet Carolyn that was tough, this thought struck me. And it humbled me deeply. And the love that filled my car at that moment, in that private moment, when I thought about Sweet Carolyn, who moved on to be with one she missed so badly. This thought came to me, Sister Kathy. I love to say your name, sorry. I thought, God, you rescued her. When my thoughts were tempted to linger on a time that was very tough and sad to see, and by the grace of God, as you do for your loved ones, you do what you can to help them through. I recognized at that moment she was with one she loved. That brought gladness to my heart. But I also recognized Sweet Carolyn, God, out of his love and mercy, he rescued her. And as that song was playing in the background, it was just sheer joy to think that she had been rescued from her situation. She will never struggle again. She will never struggle again physically or any other way. And I think that glory belongs to a loving God to think he cared enough. For me, in that moment in the car, I could not explain to you in words how humbling it was. I just cannot put words around it. But I had joy and peace, and I remembered another time I had a moment. Sweet Kathy had passed away, and I was driving in my car, and I was listening to a song. And in that moment in my car, and I think I shared this as part of a Sunday school once sometime, in that moment, whatever I was having, it was like she spoke to me one last time. And there was a peace you get that God knows you need. It's like out of his love for me, he says, I recognize you loved your loved one, but I want you to know they're okay. And he does that because he cares about me. And I don't deserve it, but I appreciate it. And after that moment with Sweet Kathy, I had a peace and a joy. God is faithful. You know, the world could listen to what I'm saying and they could say, is he crazy? His sister had pain for months and died in a hospital. No, I'm not crazy. Christ was with her every step of the way. Many of you did not see her daily like my wife and I did, and I was with Carolyn many times through my life, of course. But as much as Carolyn sometimes was tempted to fear, sometimes she was tempted to worry and very much stress over things, grieved horrifically the loss of loved ones. She never took that approach with her sickness. My wife pointed this out yesterday. Carolyn pretty much always had a peace in general about her when it came to the sickness. She was so tired. She was in so much pain, and she felt so bad. But she never lingered on the thought of death. And I'm sure in her private time, she handled it, but she handled it well in front of others. God is a rescuer. I just know that my sister had her struggles in life. She worked very hard. She was content, as she would sweetly say, as long as I can pay my bills and make it, I'll be all right. She was not materialistic. As our niece wrote about her on social media, and I'm not trying to uplift my sister, but this is why the thoughts came to me. My niece so sweetly, and my niece has grieved deeply the loss of our sister, my sister Carolyn, her aunt. Carolyn likely gave when she couldn't. But you know what? That moment, that little private moment in my car driving down a road in Ashe County, I recognized God has rescued her. She is free of all those stresses in life situations. She's been rescued. And I can't explain how humbling it was to think that God, out of his great love to me, would come to me in my little Garis and bring me those thoughts. It brought me peace. It brought me joy. All of my life, as the song says, God has been faithful to me. In Ezekiel 34:11 and 12, for thus saith the Lord God, behold, I, even I, will both search my sheep and seek them out, as a shepherd seeketh out his flock in the day that he is among his sheep that are scattered. So will I seek out my sheep and will deliver them out of all places where they have been scattered. In the cloudy and dark day. I'm sure that has a specific meaning in another way, but sometimes things speak to us in the way that we need it at the time when we need it. God knows how to bring us where we need to be. If left to my own devices, I would be scattered. Maybe not physically, but I could be scattered in my thoughts, in my beliefs, and who knows where I could be if it were not for the rescuer. I don't even want to think about it, to be honest. God is a rescuer, a deliverer. He'll deliver your mind from places that will scatter your thoughts into pathways your mind should not wander down. He'll bring you in when that day seems dark and cloudy. He can gather your thoughts. Grief is a natural process, but left unchecked, it can be detrimental. It can take you down a pathway where God doesn't want your mind to go. He doesn't want someone's mind to go there. Thankfully, he delivers you from those things. Grief can be a healthy, natural thing. For me, it brought a moment of joy because he helped me recognize something that I just needed to hear from him. And I am thankful. He'll deliver your mind. He'll deliver you from bad decisions if I let him. In that picture, was it just a one-handed grip? The other one has to hold on, or how effective will the grip be of the other one? And he can keep you from stressful situations and outcomes that could hinder you. This, I remember Sister Nancy Brewer, who said about where Sister Debbie sits when they would come. God is, do you remember this? If anybody else remembers this that was here. I'm glad God is a rational God. Any of you remember? You remember that, Brother Mark, by chance, or Austin? She would say that. And that stuck with me. God is a God of reason and order. If you don't believe me, look at the universe. Look at a human cell under a microscope, and you tell me he's not a God of reason and rationality. How could you set something like that in order? He is a God of order, not chaos and trouble. The world, and leaning on my own understanding and decision making, what will that lead to? Chaos and trouble, but not God. I may encounter a trial, but he can order my steps and bring me where I need to be. I don't have to be scattered, as the verse, and wander away from his way. God will rescue us. There's no telling what God has already rescued us from that we don't even know about. When we get saved, we know we've been rescued from hell, but think about the numerous situations where, unbeknownst to us, in our daily living, he could be rescuing us from something. But I got to hold on just like he wants to hold on. The holding on is really up to not him. It's up to who? It's up to me. I thought about some silly situations that could sound silly. When you're driving down the road and you get behind a slow vehicle, I try to think, well, maybe I'm being rescued from something. I mean, you want to not that my brain stays there. It don't. I wish it would. It's very aggravating. But you never know. What if he's rescuing you from a bad situation, an accident? When you're in a hurry at home and you can't find your keys, that does not feel good. But maybe you've been delayed just long enough to be rescued from tragedy. How do we know? When you want to make the purchase of something so badly, but when you go back to buy it, man, it's gone. That can be frustrating, can't it? Maybe you were rescued from a bad purchase. How do we know? Maybe not, but you don't know. Maybe you have your heart set on a specific quote unquote thing, but an alternative option is provided. Maybe God protected you from a bad investment. We don't know always, do we? And I could, you can go on and on with scenarios, but I think you get the point. In our daily lives, he can rescue us. But with every scenario I gave, I can be the person who interferes and limits him. God is all powerful, but I have a free will, don't I? I don't have to hold on with that grip that I would. I thought about a scenario. It's just a silly one. I don't claim to know much. I'm not gifted well at anything, but certainly not. I'm not a financial advisor. I have Anyway, I won't even. It's just kind of funny. That's not my gift. But this I know. If I want something, and this is an easy thing to talk about because it's just pretty straightforward, but the numbers in my budget don't allow it, I probably need to what? Move on, right? I mean, that's just life common sense. Come on. But I battle the flesh. Do you battle yours? A human can get in their mind, but I want this. And before you know it, I'm telling you, especially it seems like you kind of age does bring some wisdom, thank God. I'm just telling you, before you know it, you can justify, finagle, try to rearrange, and you're trying to make something affordable. That's a very different scenario than actually being able to afford it, isn't it? And I ain't no financial advisor, but I can tell you what, if paying something or paying bills is a struggle, then I probably better be careful what I add to it, don't I? I need to be cautious. I need to be aware. And I mean, on a lower level, that's common sense, right? But I'm telling you, the devil's real. And we can conflate want with the word need. I need to eat. Is that common sense? I mean, our body needs food, but it doesn't have to be steak from Outback, right? I mean, that's a want. But I can, God expects me to eat. Baby, we going to Outback. Well, I hope she's part, you mean Outback on the porch? Because that'll work just fine. That we can do. You know, I mean, we giggle, but I'm telling you, the devil's real. You know, our flesh and our human brains, I think about, gosh, I like getting older. I feel like there's some things that you kind of learn from your past, don't you? I hope so. I hope I have. Our flesh can try to use our human brains to justify things that are just not even justifiable because you battle the flesh. And I thought, you know, sadly, Jesus may try to rescue me from a situation that could put me in a terrible bind. But because I don't like his rescue plan, I don't like how his plan looks. I don't like how that plan feels in my flesh. I can put myself on a struggle bus. I sent a picture one evening. I guess it was last Sunday evening, I think. And I used it as just as a fun, because it's me and Rhonda Ray. That I can talk about us. It's us. And I sent this photo. There's this little house. Rhonda Ray, we just love the look of that little house, don't we? It's a little brick house. Now we're happy where we are. Don't you misinterpret. We're very thankful, and we are thankful. But it's just fun to look. Do you know it's sad? The human brain can try and take a want and conflate it into something that all of a sudden it'll try to have you rearranging this, and this, and it doesn't even make sense because unfortunately, I battle that we are human. Now we're not battling that with this. I'm just using it as an example. But we can also struggle with how his rescue plan, unfortunately, sometimes now look, we live in reality. I'm just being as real as I can be. Sometimes we can struggle with how the rescue plan looks to others. Devil ever do that to you? What about this? Or what about that? Well, what would so and so say? I mean, you have to put it in perspective, don't you, with God's help? Well, what about this one? Or what about that one did this? You know, I take, and I'm older. With age comes a little bit more, hopefully, security, confidence, and just ability to reason through some things. And I'll just use this as an example. I did not have grandiose plans for a wedding. And I'm not talking because people are wedding. I'm just using me and Rhonda Ray. Don't conflate. We did not have grandiose plans. Honey, we old. Why am I going to strut out there at my age? I mean, that just had zero appeal to me. We went to get our license and we almost went I was tempted. One floor up, it'd have been done. But I wasn't going to do that to our pastor. I think it would have been something to him. He, childhood friends with the person I'm marrying. I mean, our pastor here. So I was like, nah, we'll just go through with our plan. And there are people who could have critiqued our plan. Honey, I don't care. Critique it away. It wasn't your day. Now, but confidence comes with age with that. Honey, I don't care what you think. I wouldn't do anything sinful, prideful, or wrong. Well, I don't care what you would have. Hush. It's done. It's done. I don't care. Hush. But that comes sometimes with age. Let me tell you, the devil can take those situations. Well, so-and-so did this. So-and-so had this. Someone in my family said I should this. I didn't have those things. Plus, I was a middle-aged man I lived on my own. I mean, I was at a different stage of life. But can't the devil do that to us? God's trying to rescue you, pull you out of that situation you can't afford, you can't justify, you can't plan, you don't have time for. He is not a God of chaos and disorder. He is a God of reason. And reason says do something, and if you're okay with it, it's fine. You're always going to have a naysayer. If you want to live your life trying to avoid the naysayers, honey, I'll start praying for you now because you miserable. You're a miserable human. Because you're going to find somebody who's going to critique you. You're going to find somebody who doesn't like this or that. And that's just the unfortunate reality of living in the real world. So instead of being content and waiting on things to wait things out and fully recognize how God wants to help me, if I'm not careful, I could rush into things that I ought not to rush into. He's trying to rescue me, but I don't like the rescue plan. I don't like the rescue strategy. I don't like the layout of the plan. I want this. Well, maybe God's trying to help me. And it doesn't mean I won't get that which I wanted. But is it really what God could have used to help me? Does that make sense? It is easy to take things on myself, and He can have a rescue plan. And I really think sometimes this is what makes me especially sad. I can rush into something, and if not careful, I mean, I've battled my mind the same as anybody else. I could start to justify it, not only justify it, but I'll start to give God credit for working things out. And honey, it may have been nothing but my pure own choices. I'm not trying to lie. People aren't trying to be I'm not trying to be deceiving. If I do that tomorrow, I just need to reflect. I need to stop and really seek God. And we all, He does give us a large portion. We get a lot of choice and freedom of choice. But some things are certainly much more limited in our choices. People aren't trying to lie. It's easy to fall prey to self-justification for what we want. We can all fall prey to that. But I won't say y'all can. I can. It's easy to fall prey to that if I let my brain go there. So Jesus can rescue us. But I want you to think about the picture again. Was it just one hand holding the arm of the other person? No. It was both hands gripping. I can let go of His guidance. I can let go of His common sense and His rationality and His reasoning if I am not cautious, and I can get myself in one big mess. I want to end with thanksgiving to my Lord for rescuing me. We all have a testimony of that, I'm sure. Maybe you've been in your car and you dodged the deer in the accident that could hurt your car. Maybe you hit the deer, but He protected you. You're still alive and He didn't total your car. I mean, things like that. There's still a reason to be thankful. And I am thankful He saved me, and His blessings do not stop there. I had no idea the number of people in my family whom I would lose in just a short period of time. But I don't try to seek pity for that. Y'all, that's called life. Sister Teresa Van Buskirk lost 3 brothers in one car accident. 3 siblings in one, if I'm remembering correctly, one car accident. I have not lived through that, and I'm thankful. I have lost people who are very dear to me, and I'm still going to grieve at times, and especially now, the loss of sweet Carolyn. That's not something that I struggle with or bothers me. It's called normal. One night, and I'm not ashamed to share this. Rhonda Ray can tell you this past week, I really had her on my mind, didn't I, Rhonda Ray? I really did. Well, and Rhonda wants to be there for me, and she gives me the best thing a husband like me could need. Tom. She doesn't have to try to fix it or make it better. Because what is she really going to do? I'm hurting. I loved my sister. She loved her. She was good to her. So one night I had for some reason, she was on my mind so strong. And Rhonda Ray and I went to bed, and I cried myself to sleep. Rhonda cuddled me. That's what I needed. I needed her love, her presence, space. She didn't try to rush in and say, she didn't have to say something all the time. She took care of it. And it is so foreign right now. And I had a hard time with this with Kathy. I remember specifically this is a commonality, especially with Kathy because it was my first sibling that I'd lost. It was very hard to think of her in the past tense. That was crushing. Yesterday I made the phrase when I said, oh yeah, when Carolyn was living, and it struck me. That doesn't even seem possible to be a phrase that applies to Carolyn. That's hard, but it's okay. You get used to it. But I know this. God has been more than faithful to me through the losses of my loved ones. Sister Tammy, I thought of another time when God sent me a rescue. And Sister Debbie, it was even before I knew I needed her. On October 23rd, 2021, I had the amazing opportunity to join my life with God's greatest gift to me, Rhonda Ray. When God in his wisdom looked at my life, he knew when I would most effectively have time and energy for a spouse. And he knew the time frame when I would need her most. If I had not met her and married her, who knows where I might be this morning? God rescued me. And by his grace and mercy, I want to thank him the rest of my life.
I think the Lord is really good. Brought a lot of good thoughts for us to keep with us. And I was thinking of that picture he sent, and the first thing I did think of was that strong grip. You could see that strong grip, and that's what we got to have with God. We got to have a strong hold on the things of God, and He'll never let His grip go if we'll just keep holding on to God. It's His desire to help us and rescue us, and I thank Him for rescuing me. And we could get started on that, all of us probably, and talk about the things that God rescued us that we know about from. But as the brother Danny said, he's rescued us a bunch and we didn't even know it. Brother Bill Wilson was here one time in revival, and I wrote it in the back of my Bible. I believe he was talking about being thankful, and he put being thankful for the things you didn't even know he took care of, because he takes care of a lot. Very good lesson. Good message in that lesson this morning. So thankful for that. We'll take a little bit of a break, and then we'll move on with the service shortly.